Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to your daily dose of zombies news from the game and its community here on COD Zombies HQ. Thank you so much for tuning in today, where Cold War Zombies has received its largest in-game update in quite some time. There is a lot of changes and additions within it, so without further ado, let's kick things right off with our first story of the day. I figure let's start by going through everything that Treyarch has changed within this update, and then later we'll talk about the new additions into the Cold War Zombies mode, some of which basically break the game, make it a lot easier than it was before. So a massive chunk of this update is addressing issues and making changes on the latest round-based DLC map, Forsaken, where Treyarch says they've addressed an issue that allowed players to become invisible while playing an arcade game. We've seen a lot of issues in Cold War of players randomly becoming invincible to zombies, but never really invisible to them. An odd issue though that is now apparently solved. Next up, if you're a fan of using the new PhD slider perk to try to use this area of Forsaken as your own personal half-pipe, this change will be very welcome, where Treyarch says they've addressed several erroneous out-of-bounds warnings within legitimate play spaces, where if you have tried to use PhD slider in this curved hallway, you'll know that if you're successful in using this thing as a half pipe, if you reach the top of it, the game will think you're actually out of bounds and start to damage you like you're outside of the map. It did make trying to skateboard along this area a little bit more dangerous than it would have been before, but now this area should be considered inside the bounds of the map like it should have been before, and you will no longer take damage at the apex of your jump. Next, Treyarch says they've addressed an issue that could cause players to be erroneously teleported while in the observation tower space. 100% sure if this is what Treyarch is referring to here, but remember, within the observation tower space, if you were near one of the teleporters and a buddy of yours just happened to teleport to your location, the game would then teleport yourself, usually outside of the bounds of the map, ending your game essentially. It was a massive issue when the map first came out. It ended a lot of players' runs, and I think Treyarch may have just solved it with this update. Next, a smaller kind of quality of life change. Treyarch says they've addressed an issue that caused the arcade activation prompts to appear when already occupied or during exfil. So when another player in your game is already playing one of the arcade machines, doing the EisenDrache Easter egg or the Nacht Easter egg, or when you're supposed to be exfilling, you actually can't use any of the arcade tokens on the machine. They're deactivated. But the game wouldn't tell you that before. It still says that you could insert your arcade token. Now Treyarch has changed that to correctly say you can't use this machine anymore because you're exfilling or it's occupied. Also, having to do with that arcade machine, Treyarch says they've addressed an issue that caused players to receive the previous rewards when restarting the EisenDrache pinball game but not participating. I'm a little bit confused about what the issue here was, if players that just didn't participate in the Easter egg were getting rewards when they shouldn't be supposed to, but apparently this EisenDrache Easter egg is causing a big headache for Treyarch, as they've already tried patching it in a previous update, and now they're continuing to address more issues with it, also saying that they've addressed an issue that could cause some players not to retain support items, like an artillery strike or chopper gunner acquired during the EisenDrache pinball game. So a lot of fixes for this Easter egg on the map that hopefully players shouldn't be losing items when exiting the arena anymore. Next up, Treyarch made a bunch of changes to the boss zombies on Forsaken, where they say they've addressed an issue that caused the Abomination to become stuck on the main street. A little bit too close quarters for that guy. His pathing was borked no more. Next, a small quality of life change that you might have noticed was probably off, where Treyarch said that they've addressed an issue that caused the Abomination to use the special enemy icon on the map instead of the elite enemy icon. So if you looked at your minimap, you thought maybe there's just like a Tempest over there or something. Nope, it's the Abomination, a lot more terrifying, but that has since been updated to reflect its elite enemy status. Next, they say they've addressed a rare issue that could cause the Abomination to be moved nearby after a charge attack. So basically, when the Abomination would use its charge attack, sometimes I guess the game would think it's in a location where it shouldn't be, and it would basically teleport the Abomination back into what it thinks is the playable area. Now, the game shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be seeing any more teleporting abominations. Next, they say they've addressed an issue that could cause zombies to not visibly disintegrate properly when hit with the abomination's beam attack. So one of the kind of good things about the abomination is when it's using its ranged attack, the beams it fires out of its mouths damage both you, the player, and the zombies that actually come in contact with it. But before, there was no actual visual indication that it was doing any damage to the zombies, so if you line up a horde of zombies in front of the abomination's ranged attack, now you should see that the beam attacks are in fact doing a lot of damage to that zombie horde without you doing a thing. Next, this is such a niche issue, I'm surprised Treyarch or anybody found out about this, where they say they've addressed an issue that prevented the abomination from being able to destroy respawned Ethereum crystals. So the small little Ethereum crystals that you can shoot, and they sometimes drop random items. For some reason, when they respawned on the map, the abomination couldn't destroy them. And I guess it would kind of screw up their pathing, but that issue has been solved. And lastly, a fix to not do with the abomination, where they say that they've addressed an issue that can allow the disciple to follow players into arcade minigames. I have seen a bunch of players posting about this. They were calling it the hard mode of the Nacht Easter egg. Rightfully so, as with the limited ammo, you basically couldn't take the disciples down that would enter the Nacht Easter egg with you, so you just had to dodge them the whole time and just hope you could survive. Next up, the wonder weapon on the map, which is already good, got a little bit of a buff where Treyarch says that they've addressed an issue that prevented ammo from being granted when pack-a-punching the Trollarch to tier 2 or 3. So now when you pap it and you use the ranged SMG attack of the Trollarch, it will give you full ammo when you pack-a-punch it to the next level, where before it did not. So now it behaves like it should, just like every other weapon when papped in the game. Next, a change to the main Easter egg that should make it a little bit easier for players to complete, where Treyarch says that they've addressed an issue that caused ammo caches to disappear during the latter steps of the main quest, making it a lot easier to refill on ammo during the ending stages of the Easter egg, which is a very welcome change. Running out of ammo in a boss fight or the ladder escort steps can be a big problem, especially if you don't have upgraded mule kick. Next, ladies and gentlemen, it is finally over. The bonus 500 points are now no more, where Treyarch says they've addressed an issue that caused players to be granted 1000 essence instead of 500 when starting a new match. So for whatever reason, they bumped up the starting points you get to 1000 in round-based maps as of Season 6, but they've now fixed this to properly be the traditional 500 points when starting up a round-based zombies map. Next up, for players that like to find glitch spots, or for players that might be annoyed with them when playing with people that are in glitch spots in public matches, Treyarch did say that they've closed various exploit areas where players could not be reached by enemies. Knowing the zombies community, there's always other areas to find within the map, and I'm sure they will very soon. They also said that they closed various exploits relating to the use of PhD slider or the side melee weapon to slide to unintended areas. So players were getting to really wonky areas outside and above maps using the combination of those two things, but Treyarch says they've tried to fix that. Next up, if you've had issues crashing during or just playing the new map Forsaken, well, Treyarch seems to have you covered here with a massive amount of stability fixes having to do with the wonder weapon, the pizza delivery side Easter egg, as well as different parts of the main Easter egg on the map, as well as having to do with the abomination, the Arc XD, dual wheel weapons with ammo mods, and a crash that occurred when a player was down. So hopefully players that were having issues before will no longer. Treyarch also made a change to a perk, probably the least utilized and probably worst perk in the game, but it's there, where they say they addressed an issue that caused a non-functional Tombstone stash to spawn when dying without the perk after having the perk during a previous life. So the game would pretty much debate you into thinking you actually had a Tombstone stash that you could just pick up and get all your stuff back after going down and bleeding out, but it turns out it was actually just a fake stash, a bug, a little bit of Trollarch shining through that apparently shouldn't be an issue anymore. Also talking about exploits, Treyarch says that they've closed some invincibility exploits relating to the use of the new Arc XD support. Not 100% sure what those invincibility exploits were, but apparently Treyarch has found out what they were and solved them. And the last big update has to do with a pack-a-punched version of the DIE originally introduced in Die Maschine, where they say that they've addressed an issue that caused incorrect ammo to be granted to the dead Jolt Surge Wonder Weapon when receiving the max ammo power-up. If you guys remember, Treyarch actually buffed the amount of ammo you get with this Wonder Weapon. I guess they didn't change the max ammo power-up to reflect that, but apparently you should be getting the full ammo with that max ammo in a Jolt Surge from now on. Okay, so now that we've talked about the changes, let's talk about the additions that Treyarch have made into the zombies mode with this update. The first big change is the new game mode they added into Outbreak, which first of all lets you choose which one of 2 random Outbreak regions you want your game to take place in, which is pretty cool. But in this Hallows Eve Outbreak game mode, your goal quite simply is just to survive for 10 minutes and then exfil out of the region, with zombies constantly getting harder and harder every 2 minutes. Now, Treyarch did kind of hype this up as being something that would be very difficult for players to complete. Probably not that difficult at all. It is in Outbreak after all, and where there are vehicles, you can drive around the map, or in my case, boat around the water for pretty much the duration of that 10 minutes, when you finally hit that exfil point, all you need is a support weapon, a chopper gun or a death machine to complete it pretty easily. But I will say, if you don't end up just deciding to drive around for the duration of that 10 minutes, it can be kind of challenging. Zombies are constantly spawning coming at you, and especially if you are playing it in a public match, it could be pretty difficult. It is definitely a kind of needed area of zombies that we don't really get with round-based maps, or especially in the Outbreak game mode, where you hop right in and it's constant action all the way through, no downtime, where you can actually feel like you've played a full zombies game within 10 minutes. But speaking of the changes they made to the round-based maps, where now every 5 rounds you'll be rewarded with a scare package that spawns in somewhere on the map, and within these scare packages it could either be a jump scare or it could reward you with some decent loot. But with this update, Treyarch have also introduced the jack-o'-lantern item drop that can now drop randomly from zombies, and these guys have basically broken the balance of the mode. You get everything from level 1, 2, 3 armors, you get ether tools from these things, alternate ammo types, chalices which pap your weapons, wonder weapons out of them. I got the crystal axe out of a jack-o'-lantern on Forsaken, where you can basically chill inside of any spawn room in any round-based zombies map, and within 10 to 15 rounds you'll have level 3 armor, a legendary weapon that is pack-a-punched already to level 3. It's incredible. Jack-o'-lantern rewards definitely help you a lot. They give you everything but perk drops. So basically, if you're playing a round-based map while this event is going on, my suggestion would be save your points for perks. Rather than trying to pack-a-punch your weapon and spending salvage on upgrading the rarity of your weapon, the drops you get from the jack-o'-lantern will pretty much do that for you. Enjoy them while they last. I feel like Treyarch wanted to go kind of like a last hurrah here in the Cold War Zombies mode before Vanguard releases, so they just made everything super overpowered. But that does wrap up today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hey, if you did, consider leaving a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. A big shout out to each and every one of you guys that watched to the end of yesterday's episode of the show that found the secret outro. There will be more in the future, I can assure you, so keep your eyes peeled. But I want to thank you again for watching, and I'll see you with another Zombies news update tomorrow. Peace.